Why is science not working when it comes to the climate problem? And how can Wall Street help to solve the climate problem? This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's August 15th, 2020. This is Krim Delco. For the year, the fund is up 146%. The market is up about 4%, so we're outperforming by 142%. If you started the fund with $100 and the S&P with $100 on January 1st, 2020, we would have $246 now, and the S&P would have $104. The main outperformance comes through Tesla, and as I've spoken several times on this podcast, this is driven by, first and foremost, the company's stellar performance, also low interest rates, and money flowing into ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance. And I want to talk about this today, about the fact that Wall Street has spoken with their wallet. Wall Street is investing in climate change solutions. Oil stocks are down, car stocks are down. Anything that burns fossil fuels is not doing well on Wall Street. The future for these energy sources is being voted down by Wall Street, while solar stocks, Tesla, other renewable energy type stocks, New Era Energy, for example, a utility in Florida, which is deploying these technologies. Even Iberdrola in Spain, a company belagered by debt and Spanish problems, but still they have a lot of renewable energy sources. So their stock is doing fine. Wall Street is talking, speaking with the wallet, walking the walk, but in the populace, in the general populace, particularly in the US, that is not the case. So there's a discrepancy between Wall Street and Main Street, and I find that very interesting. So Wall Street wants to do the right thing, Main Street is still reluctant. Why is that? I just had a call with Ian Hutchinson, a plasma physicist at MIT. He works on energy fusion, some of the most exciting, most dramatic energy sources we could possibly think of as humans. Uh, Energy fusion is really trying to do a thermonuclear fusion between two hydrogen atoms, which is exactly what's happening in the sun. Very difficult, and obviously not the topic of this podcast right now, but I just want to mention his comments because I think he's a very qualified person to talk about science and also the main problem, which is the acceptance of science in the general populace. I think science has a problem. Science is being misused, according to Hutchinson, who wrote a book, Monopolizing Knowledge. He's making the point that science cannot monopolize knowledge. And I'm not sure where he stands on that front. He doesn't even think that scientists want to do that. But for some reason, in the last 200 years with the Enlightenment and all that stuff that was happening, science has been put on a pedestal to be the solution for everything. And Hutchinson said that, listen, science can show us facts, and sometimes science can be very, very progressive. But in many cases, particularly when it comes to social, political types of questions, science doesn't have the answer. It is a political process. For example, climate change is a very good example where he says, look, climate change can help us understand what's going on. Science can help us understand what's happening in climate change and what the influences are, and we can prove that human influence is increasing the temperature, but we cannot really show what's going to happen. That is very difficult. We can run scenarios, but it's very difficult to predict what's actually going to happen because it's a nonlinear system, and we're not very good at predicting these types of dynamics. And therefore, science is being hijacked by politics. And unfortunately, in the US, both sides of the argument, the people that argue to do something against climate change and those who say we shouldn't do anything, are both using science as an argument to support their political views. And this is where it's gone wrong. And I mean, I can state many other examples where science is being misused. For example, COVID-19 is one of those, where we're not really sure what we should be doing about the pandemic. And science is being used by both camps, the camps that want everybody to live like hermites covered with masks, and the camps that say, no, we need to preserve economic freedom, and our individual freedom is as important as the pandemic. So let's find a scientific solution to solve the problem. No, both camps are using science in a very haphazard, discrete way oh, well, I can use this number, I can use that number, I'm not going to use this and that because it doesn't support my argument. That is really what's going on with a lot of these questions. I also like to use another example, which is a lot more personal to people, which is personal health. It is scientifically proven that if you eat well, if you exercise and sleep well, your chances of being healthy are much higher. That is scientifically proven, but you still can't predict 100% what's going to happen if you do that. Meaning you can still get cancer, you can still be hit by a bus, etc. So longevity by being healthy, or even more important, having a meaningful, purposeful life by being healthy, doesn't really translate that well. And therefore, personal health is this, weird realm of, well, you should do this, you should do that, this diet and that diet. Nobody really believes in the science because it's been hijacked by both, by the proponents of personal health and by the whoever is against that for whatever reason. For example, the sugar industry, the meat industry, and other people who have an interest in keeping people not so healthy. So this is the gist of the argument in this episode, is that we are using science for the wrong thing. And we need to understand where science is powerful and where it's not. And wherever it's not powerful, we need to use other means. For example, the political process. We have something called democracy. We have something called discourse. And we shouldn't even involve science, and particularly science when it comes to numbers. When we throw numbers around, 45% of people got COVID in Pleasanton. California is collapsing. What does it really mean? 45% of what? Of which populace? Maybe 45% of one particular plant. It's not, let's be clear about what exactly is going on, and then let's use science where we can use science. And according to Ian Hutchinson, who's a plasma physicist who knows something about science, I would say after 50 years in the field, he's saying that you can do science where you can do reproducible, clear, measurable experiments, or systematic studies of events, and then use those facts to either refute or support thesis. That is where science is very powerful, and we can do things like build computers, build Golden Gate bridges, build rocket ships. We can do these things. In other fields, such as political science or social economic type issues, science might not be very helpful, and we should then be honest about it and say, look, we can, or actually, here's another one: medicine. How about medicine? Medicine is not very scientific. Most of medicine doesn't really know what they're doing because they don't have the science. So they're using pseudoscience. They're often using opaque language, trying to cement their authority even though they don't have it. And that yields to very high healthcare costs, number one, and number two, very, very poor results. So my point here is that we as Orange Capital Partners are very aware of that. We know that in the end, investing and making money and generating wealth, which is the purpose of this fund, comes down to what really works and what doesn't. So we don't get nebulous with scientific arguments one way or the other. But we're very encouraged by the fact that Wall Street has spoken, that Wall Street sees the future in non-fossil fuel energies and transportation, and that we need to find also a societal solution to support this money and these technologies, and that the opposition against non-fossil fuel burning energy forms is number one, ridiculous, and number two, has to be refuted in the political process, not the scientific realm. Thank you.